it's almost like too much at points. Like it's just a lot coming at you at once. It's a lot to adjust to. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Molly, and in this video I'm going to be listening to the album Untouchables from the band Korn. Now, I have been doing a little Korn album reaction series here on my channel. I've been diving into their studio albums in order of when they were released, so I've heard their first 4 albums so far, and now we're on to album number 5, Untouchables, which they released in 2001. Korn has so far embraced kind of a different sound on each of their albums leading up to Untouchables, so I'm really curious to see what direction they're going to take their music in on this one, and just see what I think of it. Alright, so up first on Untouchables we have track 1 called Here to Stay. Oh yeah, I really like this really heavy sound to this one right off the bat. These vocals are a little bit different for Korn. There's kind of an echoiness to them almost. Yeah, there's like this really big, expansive sound to this one. It almost sounds like they're performing live in a stadium or something. And now it's almost atmospheric sounding. I really liked how that bridge just got so quiet, and then right when he was saying bring it down, it was like all of this heaviness came back to the song. That was track 1 on Untouchables, Here to Stay. Frankly, that track was awesome. I really enjoyed the sound of that one. A little bit different for Korn. It had like this really big, immense sound to it. On Korn's earlier albums, like specifically their first one, their self-titled, there was kind of an enclosed sound to it. Like it almost sounded like they were jamming out in a studio or something. And that track, Here to Stay, it was like the sound opened up. There was all of this echoiness to his vocals, which was really cool. I kind of enjoyed that sound from Korn. So I'm gonna move on to track 2 called Make Believe. I don't even know what instrument that is. Some sort of flute? There's a lot going on sonically with this song. It's almost like 2 different tracks playing simultaneously. And again, Jonathan Davis's vocals have that same kind of echoey, expansive quality that the first track had as well. I wonder if they're going to carry that through this whole album. It's like a gunshot and then all the sound comes back. The shit seems to follow. The shit seems to follow. The shit seems to follow. That was track 2, Make Believe. Such an interesting song to listen to. I really liked all of the stuff they were doing with the sound of that one, especially at the start. It kind of almost sounded like a flute, and there was like some sort of plucky instrumentation going on too in the background. But then they had that paired with kind of the heavier, more rock sounding part of the song with his vocals, and it had that heavy quality to it, and it was kind of like the 2 playing simultaneously. Really interesting. All right, so moving on to track 3, we have Blame. I don't know why, right off the bat though, this one reminds me of their self-titled album. Now it doesn't so much. The vocals are so much lighter and airier sounding. guitar. I love that little guitar going on in the background. Track 3, Blame. I really enjoyed that one actually. Very different sound for Korn. Yet again, they seem to be kind of taking things in almost a direction of fusing really heaviness with a lot of lightness, and they're kind of playing up on that dynamic a lot on this album. But moving on to track 4, we have Hollow Life. I'm finding this album fascinating to listen to. There is such a strong electronic vibe to this one. We're all in space? Is that what he said? It does have a very like floaty outer space sound to it. I really like his vocal delivery on Hollow, how it gets so high. Track 4, Hollow Life. It had a really restrained kind of lightness to it, and then paired with the electronic elements too, a very different sound. And yeah, his vocals just were so light and kind of ethereal sounding, and it kind of fit with the lyrics about looking up toward the sky. There was kind of an outer space floaty lightness to the sound of that one. All right, moving on to track 5, we have Bottled Up Inside. Right off the bat, this one reminds me of Blame, track 3. It's got the same, like, really heavy start to it. Now this track almost has like a falling away from me vibe to it. I really do just love the bass on all of Korn's albums, and this one's no exception. I think just there were some vocals going on in the background that sounded like that weird language that Jonathan Davis sometimes sings in. That was track 5, Bottled Up Inside. Again, another track with a lot of stuff kind of all coming at you at once in terms of the sound of that one. On their previous albums, I mean, Korn's always kind of gone crazy with their sound a little bit, but there's kind of been a more contained sound to them. I almost feel like production-wise on Untouchables, it's almost like too much at points. Like it's just a lot coming at you at once. It's a lot to adjust to. But up next we have track 6 called Thoughtless. There's such a grooviness to this one at the start. I like how his vocals are going lower and lower. Like when he's saying down, 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 underground, ground, ground, it's like his vocals are descending. So far, this is actually a very normal sounding song for Korn. I'm curious to see if they're gonna change it up, because usually Korn will just throw a curveball on, and so far this track is very predictable almost. Okay, there might be something coming now. Yep, here we go. Track 6, Thoughtless. That was a really, really fun one to listen to. I loved the groove going on with that one. And they still had kind of a heaviness to that one, but it was just a little bit more almost relaxed sounding. It just had a great fluidity to it. Up next is track 7 called Hating. There's something so elasticy, like fluid, about the instrumentals on this one. Is that a guitar? I love that sound. It's really fun. Again, in true form of this album, this track has this great dense heaviness to it on the choruses, and then the verses have this really funky lightness to them, like a fluidity to its sound. That was track 7, Hating, a really unrelenting heaviness to that one. Like the instrumentals were very driving and dense sounding. I loved that guitar. That was probably my favorite part of that track. That little guitar sound that was in the background at times. Up next we have track 8 called One More Time. This part right here, it almost sounds kind of electronic a little bit, or there's just like a really kind of futuristic tone to it. It's really cool. It seems to be that there's a lot of lyrical themes regarding space and flying, floating, and that's kind of the sound that this album has to it. I mean, it's got those heavy tones, but there's a lot of like lightness and atmospheric stuff to this album. Track 8, One More Time. Again, a ton going on with that track. We even had some vocal distortion there at the end, a lot of electronic things going on too. It's almost like Korn was just taking full advantage of the production budget that they had for this album and were just implementing like every possible effect and sound that they could possibly use when they were making Untouchables. All right, moving on to track 9, we have Alone I Break. This might be the most pop sounding I think I've ever heard Korn. Popcorn. I did not do that intentionally. But yeah, there's like this really streamlined kind of hip hop vibe to this one. There's way less of that heavy instrumentation. Yeah, I really like how they're embracing the kind of lighter element of this album with this track, but I'm kind of missing that really awesome bass or something. I feel like this track needs something to kind of pull it down a little bit. That was track 9, Alone I Break. That was a very different track. The rest of the tracks on this album so far have kind of fused the heaviness with the lightness, and I'm really enjoying that dynamic, and that track kind of lost a little bit of the heaviness. It was just a little bit of a different sound to that one. And moving on to track 10, we have Embrace. think this track is making up for Alone I Break in delivering the heaviness, like the intensity. That percussion is really cool. It's got a really great kind of natural hollowness to its sound. Yeah, again, lyrically, this whole album is really playing up the whole, like, falling down, flying, and it's going back and forth lyrically on that theme, but they're kind of mirroring that sonically, too. Track 10, Embrace. That one went hard, that's for sure. It had a fantastic, like, just denseness to its quality of sound. And even Jonathan Davis's vocal delivery on that one was a little bit more heavy too. It still kind of had that echoey quality to it that this whole album is utilizing on his voice, but that track, it just kind of had a little bit of a heavier tone to it, which I enjoyed. Okay, moving on to track 11, we have Beat It Upright. This one certainly has some interesting lyrics. I love how they're still saying though, like, get down. Like, they're still sticking to that whole theme of like up, down, and then the whole lightness, heavy thing. His crazy vocals are back in the background of this one. I really like that fuzzy distortion to the sound of this guitar. This ending's a little bit different. That was track 11, Beat It Upright. Again, a fantastic quality to the tone of that one. It just sounded really rich and layered with that heaviness and all the instrumentation. The bass, again, was such a standout on that track. I love, though, that the one song I hone in on lyrically was that one. Definitely more of a comical track in terms of the lyrical content versus I'm sure other ones on this album kind of get into some heavier topics. Up next we have track 12 called Wake Up Hate. See, it almost sounds like there's more than one vocalist on this, but I think it's just Jonathan Davis's voice and it's been altered or distorted to kind of have a really like intense echoiness to it. I like the faster tempo of this one. Track 12, Wake Up Hate. Certainly a great like workout song or driving really fast down the highway song. It just had a really fast tempo to it, which was fun. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of Alone I Break in how it was a little bit less heavy. It kind of had more of that mainstream kind of clean sound to it. There was a little bit less of that heavy instrumentation going on with that one. All right, moving on to track 13, we have I'm Hiding. I love all the use of cymbals on this one. That bass is just fantastic. I love it. Yeah, I really love how this track builds up. It's a great fusion of the two sounds that they've incorporated on this album. That was track 13, I'm Hiding. I really liked that one. It had a great, really subtle, restrained electronic tone to it on those verses. Kind of a creepiness to it, something building up, and then it did build up, and then the chorus came and just brought like an explosion of energy. It kind of just punched you in the face with how heavy and dense those instrumentals were. But I want to see how Untouchables is going to end, so I'm going to move on to track 14, the final track on this album, called No One's There. How I wish that I could fly. Okay, now the sound just like really opened up. It's almost like his voice is taking flight, and with all the themes of like wanting to fly and leave this place that are throughout this whole album, it kind of makes sense. It's like the instrumentals just keep expanding and growing. Alright, it's fading out. There's still like 4 minutes left of this track though. Okay, there's something else starting. This is certainly a groovy ending. I think these are the same lyrics as Here to Stay, the first track. There's almost like a tribal sounding element to this song. Well, that was track 14, No One's There, the last track on Untouchables. Kind of two parts to that one. The first part I really liked, actually. It had a great layered quality to it, like a really, again, like rich, well-developed tone. And especially toward the end there, it kind of took on like this hymnal quality, like more vocals came in, and again they just layered everything really, really well. And then the second half of that track was kind of a weird, groovy little outro to the whole album. It was almost like a different version of Here to Stay, the first track. Alright, so that is going to conclude my reaction to Untouchables, the 5th studio album from the band Korn. They definitely embraced a new element to their sound on Untouchables, which I really enjoyed. It's just a lot to take in on first listen, but I was just thoroughly entertained by this album from start to finish. Honestly, right now, I don't even know if I have any standout tracks. The whole album was just so interesting and crazy to listen to that I think I have to go back and revisit it before I can pick out favorites. I just loved the infusions of the electronic stuff and kind of those really streamlined, modern sounding bits, and then they brought the heavy instrumentation too. That whole pairing, they did so well on this album. But I am definitely looking forward to hearing more from Korn now. I just never know what to expect on their albums. I'll do Take a Look in the Mirror next, probably, since that's the one following Untouchables. But yeah, as usual, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.